SMT Nation, we are back. Nation, in today's video, I want to take some of the things that were discussed at the UBS Investor Conference, Global Media Conference. Verizon presented, the CEO was speaking to the interviewer, and there were some really, really solid piece of information. I want to discuss them in a couple of videos with you guys here. And in today, this edition of the channel, I just want to cover, I'd say probably half of the content. Let's go ahead and get things going. So the first thing I want to discuss was cable. We got a little bit of disclosure on Verizon and the relationship with Big Cable. Obviously, they are the mobile network partner with, Spectrum and Xfinity. And, a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but some people obviously find it a bit unusual that Verizon is so willing to do business with those companies, provide them with network access. A lot of people think that Verizon customers leave Verizon and go to the big cable providers, flocking to them for cheaper prices. And apparently that's not really the case. One of the things that Hans said about this relationship, and he doesn't like to delve too much into it. It's something that he, obviously with their commercial relationship, it's not something he can disclose. A lot of that stuff has to kind of stay under wraps. But he did say, quote, "We lose less than our fair share versus our competitors." So basically what he's saying is that big cable takes from everybody. Verizon, they take from T-Mobile and AT&T. But that statement means that Verizon loses less than their competitors. So T-Mobile and AT&T lose more in that whole switcher pool. Right? So if there's, 100,000 customers switching to big cable, when they say they lose less than their share, they're saying they lose less than a third, right? So that could be, 30%. That could be, 28%. I'm assuming it's somewhere near there. I wouldn't expect it to be too far lower than that, maybe as low as 26%. But that's kind of interesting that both T-Mobile and AT&T lose more than Verizon does, right? So that's something that was mentioned, and actually, he referred to those customers that switch as still being profitable. And I think Verizon values the fact that they don't have to service those customers directly, right? They're just easy access on the network. They don't have to deal with their customer care calls. They don't have to deal with their billing issues. They don't have to deal with any type of retail for those folks, right? So they view them as profitable for whatever reason. All right, next. Interesting piece here is the fixed wireless access piece. This one was a big one, right? Discussing the convergence with broadband and wireless. But first, specifically with fixed wireless access, this one was important. Hans Vestberg, the CEO of Verizon, said that a vast majority of customers take the higher tier option. Guys, there are two fixed wireless 5G home internet options from Verizon. You have like the entry level plan, which is kind of like a neutered version of fixed wireless access. Doesn't give you 1080p video, slower speeds, those types of things. He says that people are taking the higher tier, a vast majority. So that might be like 55%, maybe 60 or 65%. Who knows? Maybe it's higher. I think he would probably disclose it if it was. But that's an interesting point that people are taking the more premium option. I think that's because they're happy to get away from cable. Cable's probably charging them even more than, $70, which is what the plan costs, right? So if your cable bill is 80, 90, 110 for internet, and Verizon will give you something really, I guess what they consider to be premium, then you'd be willing to pay $70 for it, right? And that's an ARPU improvement going from the $60 plan to a $70 plan. And Verizon, of course, absolutely loves that. And then he spoke to small business and retail. They love the fixed wireless piece too, right? They love it as a solution. They love the flexibility, the ability for them to kind of use it in different scenarios, not being stuck to a wire, what have you. But he also did mention that the MDU solution, which I think was supposed to be some kind of like a gigabit speed plan with millimeter wave, that is on scheduled to be released in 2025. And he did also mention something there about that service, that they were going to be able to tap into building cables. I'm not sure what he's referencing, but I do think that means that they'll be able to provide higher speed, capacity type experiences for those home broadband customers, as opposed to trying to get the millimeter wave signal into window units or something. So I'm not sure how that's going to look and what it's going to be like, but it seems like it's going to be kind of unique and separate from what they've been doing in the past. So I'm excited to learn more about that once that drops here in 2025. And to kind of continue with the fixed wireless access piece, concerns about capacity, Hans did say that 5G Advanced would bring additional improvements, capacity improvements, speeds, latency, different types of technology evolutions that would make the services better. And then with respect to kind of just making the services available in terms of the convergence questions, he said nobody is number one in convergence because nobody is nationwide. I have to agree there. It's tough to be number one because you'd have to have your home broadband absolutely everywhere, right? And I think Verizon does a pretty nice job of scaling fixed wireless to make it a convergence story with that and wireless. Obviously, Fios, they're kind of more like within regions, but with Frontier, they get a lot bigger. So their convergence piece does improve. But I think the most important piece of the disclosures on convergence, Hans said 50% of our customers converge, which if I remember correctly, compared to earlier in this year or at the end of last year, the convergence percentage for them, I think, was like 10%, right? So that would be a notable improvement. While it doesn't seem large, going from 10 to 15 is a 50% improvement, right? And these companies love to get that convergence, quote unquote convergence. Customers obviously attaching more services helps them increase their ARPUs or ARPAs, right? The customer spending more money with them, it decreases churn. The customer gets stickier, and they can always try to upsell, add on different services and things that the customer might be interested in. And of course, all of this is connected to C-band, right? When we talk about fixed wireless access, I talked about this in a previous video. Currently, 70% of the Verizon wireless tower sites have N77 gear installed. They have C-band, right? The 5G ultra wideband. And the goal is to get to, I believe, 80 to 90% by the end of next year, right? And of course, that's the connection with fixed wireless access. It's connected to C-band, right? Where the services become available are the places where the C-band is. So they're going to build that segment of their network, that capacity layer deeper. They're going to go into more places, obviously, but they're going to go into the places where they have it and make it more meaningful and significant. Specifically mentioned cities that are growing, right? So bigger markets, cities that have been outside of the route, testing markets that are now going into the route. A handful of cities have been removed. A handful of cities that are new have gone into the testing. Verizon is going to start putting some money into those places and building the network there, right? To kind of match where the growth is. Verizon wants to be there, and they want to be there with the opportunity to get those customers on the converged offers. Really interesting stuff. I have more to discuss with you guys. I'm going to leave that one, just here talking about kind of fixed wireless access, the capacity, the different services. There's more to discuss. Obviously, I want to talk about their consumer business, the business part of the house. I want to talk about Frontier. I'm also going to discuss some things like central offices, other assets, and their business model with respect to handset sales. So be on the lookout for that video. It should be coming shortly. Stay tuned. Keep it locked. A lot of good stuff here on the channel as we produce it. Turn on the bell notifications after you hit the subscribe, and you'll know exactly when we do drop those videos. But thank you for supporting us. Please do like and share this video, and we'll see you all in the next one.